The define is the first phase of the DMAIC methodology. The purpose of the define phase is to determine the purpose, objectives, and scope of the project. It is one of the most important phases since it lays the foundation for the entire project. At times, when Six Sigma projects fail, the issues can be traced to the define phase itself. Define phase objective. The define phase aims to determine the objectives and scope of the project, collect information on customers, both internal and external, and the processes involved, identify the project deliverables to customers. At the outset, the define phase identifies the products or processes requiring change, decide on the mechanism to accurately get to the voice of the customer, identifies customer needs and breaks them down into parameters that are critical to quality, draw a charter for the team and process maps. Selecting the project champion. The define phase begins with the identification of the champion and process owner in the areas affected by the project. Usually, a senior manager who is most closely associated with the process is selected as the champion. It is his responsibility to ensure that the members of the project team fully understand and commit to the project. It is he, again, who owes a direct accountable for the results of the project. Sometimes, the champion can also be the process owner. The responsibility of the process owner is to ensure process performance, sustain the gains of the Six Sigma process, and focus on scope for process improvement in the future. 5 basic elements of a charter. Element 1. Business case. The business case needs to answer the following questions. Why is the project worth doing? Consequences of not doing the project. Element 2. Problem statement. The problem statement needs to answer the following questions. Description of problem. What is wrong or is not meeting customers' needs? Element 3. Goal statement. The goal statement needs to state the improvement the team is seeking to accomplish. Element 4. Scope. Scope needs to define what will the team work on and what is out of bounds. Element 5. Milestones. Milestones are part of the project plan. Project charter. A project charter lays out project objectives and develops during the course of the project, beginning with the define phase. During the define phase, the team members go on adding new information to the project charter, which leads to modifications accordingly. A project charter can be said to have begun from the time when the executive team builds a case for justifying the project. In reality, however, a project charter begins when the champion draws it, sets its objectives, builds a team, and fixes the responsibilities of team members. The champion explains the critical importance of the project to the organization and to the black belt who is chosen to lead the team. A project charter must have an appropriate and easy to understand title. It must carry the names and details of all experts involved in the project. In the case of a cross-functional team, members may not know of the expertise of others. A project charter authorizes the champion and his team to use organizational resources for the project. Team charter. Sometimes, along with the project charter, a team charter is also created. A team charter gives authority to the members of the project team to work on the project as well as gives the schedule when they can go back to their departments. Departmental managers approve the loan of the employees to the project and sign the team charter. Find below a project charter template. Try and answer these questions for a project you would wish to perform back at work. Please take time and define this carefully, since this is a critical deliverable of the defined phase. Be as specific as possible while answering the question. This is page 2 of the Project Charter template. The objective is to identify team members and skills required to complete the project. Try and answer these questions for a project you would wish to perform back at work. Please take time and define this carefully, since this is a critical deliverable of the defined phase. Establish the project team. The first step is to select a team leader. The selection is approved by the champion or the executive team. The team leader is not only supposed to have adequate training in Six Sigma, but also good leadership and communication skills. In the next step, the team leader selects members of the team. Departmental managers play a role when potential workers are to be released from the regular jobs. Members are selected on the basis of their familiarity and experience with the whole process. All departments, finance, information technology, human resources, purchase, and others need to be represented on the team. Such a cross-functional team always ensure that all the aspects of the project are taken care of and any knowledge sharing or problem solving is not hampered. A team leader could be a black belt and must work full-time till the completion of the project. In addition to the black belt, there have to be green belts who should be able to devote at least 25% of their time to the project. The team selected for working with a black belt is usually small and may consist of 4 to 6 members. In the next step, key stakeholders are identified. Stakeholders are those who have a stake in the performance and success of the project. The cooperation and support of stakeholders is crucial for the success of the project. The RACI model. The next step is to draw a system chart which shows levels of involvement in decision making. RACI is a common system chart showing 4 levels of involvement. For example, responsibility, accountability, consultation, and information. Using these 4 levels of involvement, a RACI chart brings together the team and stakeholders into a bond and creates a common focus for results. The best way for a black belt to make efficient and meaningful progress in driving decision makers is use the problem-solving approach based on data collected and analysis made. Organizations can avoid conflicts among team members and various stakeholders by overseeing that the right people are involved in the project activities. A RACI chart cuts through the existing culture of the organization by assignment of responsibilities. It works towards getting actionable information within the overall framework and strategy of the organization. As discussed, RACI is a common system chart showing 4 levels of involvement. For example, responsibility, accountability, consultation, and information. R is for responsibility. Responsibility rests with people actively participating in the project work. A is for accountability. Accountability rests with people ultimately responsible for the results. C is for consultation. Consultation is with people who are experts or are holding positions of authority relevant to the project and need to be consulted. I is for information. Information is to be given to people who will be affected by a decision and hence should be informed with their decisions. A RACI example is given for your benefit. Team Kickoff Meeting. The team kickoff meeting is led by the black belt and is the starting point of team bonding and awareness of tasks to be undertaken. One of the surest ways to ensure a good beginning is to have or more key stakeholders attend and address the meeting. In the meeting, the champion and the black belt outline their roles and responsibilities in the Six Sigma project. The black belt gives a broad outline of the project to the team members according to the project charter drawn. The roles and responsibilities of the team members are also described by the black belt. Next, every member of the team introduces himself. The champion should ask every member questions so as to bring out knowledge, skills, and experience of the member and to help him understand what contributions he is going to make to the project. The conversation should be conducted in a way so as to make the members feel that they are important to the project and they are free to express their views. This will give them a sense of involvement and ownership. The meeting should be informal and open, because the experience of formal and routine meeting is usually not very productive. The champion can make meetings more fruitful by laying down some basic rules with respect to the behavior of members, expectations from them, and interaction among them. The manner in which the first meeting is conducted by the black belt leaves a lasting impression on the members of the project team. For instance, if the first meeting doesn't start on time, or follow the agenda, or allow members to freely express their views and actively participate in the conversations, they will not find sufficient motivation to work in a spirit of cooperation and self-respect. It is necessary for the champion and the black belt to discuss the scope of the project. The champion and the black belt can lay out and make team members contribute towards the next steps of the defined phase, which involves identification of customers and customer data collection. The steps described above lay the foundation for the application of Six Sigma to the project. Each Six Sigma deployment essentially follows the same model of implementation. Identifying the customers. A project cannot proceed without first identifying its customers. Customers can be any individual or any organization that receive a product or a service from a process. These individuals or organizations can be internal, for example, inside the organization, or external, for example, outside the organization. It is project team's responsibility to identify both types of customers. External customers include distributors and retailers, as well as consumers of the product or service. In some cases, the project team may find it easy to identify its internal and external customers, but in other cases, they may require consultation with people in the organization who are engaged in direct interface with the customers, such as customer service representatives and marketers. The team groups internal and external customers into categories based on their relationship to the organization and the product, service, or process that is the focus of Six Sigma project. Identify Project CTQ. The next step in the define phase is to collect customer data, also known as Voice of Customer or VOC, on the basis of CTQs. A CTQ, or critical to quality characteristics, is any feature of a product, service, or process that a customer considers critical to quality. A CTQ is generally expressed in customer language and is qualitative in opinion. Data collection is done using customer surveys, customer complaints, focus groups, and interviews. There are pros and cons of using these tools, which have been highlighted. In the end, the project team needs to translate the qualitative opinion into a quantitative specification so as to make it actionable. In other words, after data collection, the next step the team takes in the define phase is to convert customer data into CTQ customer requirements. Define the customer CTQ requirements. The team lists the CTQs in order of importance. This process is known as VOC analysis. VOC analysis can involve or more tools such as CTQ tree. This analysis takes CTQs one by one. At the outset, the team puts a CTQ into a box. The CTQ is then broken down into components, which are put in the next generation of boxes. The team continues with this breaking down process until it reaches a point where the smaller components can be quantified and measured. A project team may also use a CTQ matrix. A CTQ matrix is a YX diagram, or cause and effect matrix, that can be used to link customer CTQs to process inputs and identify an area of focus. The matrix is a grid of rows and columns with output variables, or Y along axis, and input variables, or X's, along the other axis. Each output variable is assigned a weight for its relative importance to the customers. Each X compared to each Y and rated with a number. The number for each X is then multiplied by the weight for each Y to produce a series of scores and percentages. The CTQ matrix is an effective method to pinpoint the area where a team needs to improve in order to better satisfy most important CTQs. Scope of the project. Project scope defines the boundaries within the project team works. In a way, scope is the definition of the project. The champion and the black belt decide on what is expected of the team and what is not. Defining a project scope makes sure that the team will not deviate or digress from its path and is focused on the biggest problem and the best opportunity for improvement. Those involved in laying down the scope of a project need to understand in which areas they could affect the maximum financial gains for the organization. It is important for the team, therefore, to make an assessment and decide which areas are possible for it to tackle within the scope of the project. A project scope may be too ambitious to solve all the highest priority areas and can fail to carry out the task. It is better to be practical and reasonable and handle only as many high priority areas as possible. Even if the scope tackles 7 of 10 problem areas, it will have achieved 70% of the benefits. Project scope is also determined by the time allotted for its completion. In order to achieve results within the time limit, the project must have start and stop points. Once project scope is set, the project team should work to avoid scope creep, or the tendency of attempting a little more or changing direction slightly. Even a little stretching or shift in course could create new problems the team would find difficult to solve. It may delay the project or reduce benefits expected from it. It might even lead to failure. However, an organization may need to have a project with a very large scope. It is better in such cases that the team, after its assessment, recommends that the large project can be broken up into smaller projects on which work can be undertaken either simultaneously or after the completion of another. Breaking a large project into smaller ones is done with a view to giving every project a realistic, achievable scope. Scoping also allows the champion and the black belt to specify and assess the resources and the human skills they will require for the project to give effective result, and also to draw a time frame for the project completion. Process mapping. Once project scoping is done, the next step is to define and map the core business process on which the project is targeted to focus. This is done by the black belt with the active involvement of the champion and other team members. Without knowing the current state of the process under focus, it is not possible to proceed. So the team draws a detailed map that documents the current state of the process. This is usually in the form of flowchart. From the various activities of the process, the team set the start and stop points for the process and defines the various activities of the process as critical, major, or minor in terms of the output of the process. The SIPOC diagram. The defining and drawing of process map is known as SIPOC, shorts for suppliers, inputs, process, outputs, and customers. A SIPOC diagram indicates the suppliers, inputs, the process, the output, and customers of every stage of the process, as well as the process itself. Due to the complexity, it is often more effective when the team uses a blackboard or a flip chart rather than a sheet of paper so that the members can more easily grasp the details. After the black belt has drawn a process map in consultation with other members, the team presents it to the various stakeholders to ensure that the mapping is complete. Within the SIPOC diagram, the team can identify which of the major steps in the sub-processes will have the maximum impact on the output. A SIPOC diagram always keeps focus on the financial aspects. The flow of money in all stages of the process must be studied. It is only by separating value-added activities from non-value-added activities that the project team can pinpoint whether the money flowing is being used or wasted. Project metrics. Following the conversion of the VOC data into CTQs, the team has to decide on the appropriate measures for evaluating the progress of the project toward meeting those customer requirements. Project metrics are basically specifications for the CTQs. However, it is important to remember that project metrics, though derived from CTQs, must also relate to the organization's requirements. In other words, project metrics must carry the weight of both voice of customer voice and voice of business. Metrics are usually selected on any of the following three bases: quality, delivery time, and cost. In Six Sigma terminology, these dimensions are known as critical to quality or CTQ, critical to delivery or CTD, and critical to price or CTP. Develop the problem statement. Once a problem is identified, the team prepares a problem statement, or the project statement. The problem statement must be clear and specific in defining the problem. The preparation of a problem statement demands painstaking study of all aspects of problem. It should include the basic facts, such as the circumstances in which the problem occurs and the extent of the impact of the problem. Developing a good problem statement helps communication among team members and stakeholders and is critical to directing the project mission. Without a clear and specific problem statement, it is difficult to set meaningful goals, direct efforts in appropriate direction, measure progress, and achieve results. An example of a good problem statement is given as follows. Product returns are 6% of sales, resulting in profit impact of $6 million, and customer dissatisfaction rates in excess of 60%. The statement is based on distinct figures and specifies the core cost and customer satisfaction issues, whereas an example of a poor problem statement is, our product return levels are too high due to product X and will be reduced by analyzing Pareto charts. In this problem statement, there are no figures giving us any quantitative idea about the scope or scale of the problem. Also, it talks of a solution, that is, Pareto charts, rather than defining the problem in specific terms. Developing the business case. The purpose of developing the business case is to identify and quantify all potential benefits of committing time and resources to the project and modifying the problematic processes. The managers must find the business case beneficial and necessary. A baseline is a measurement of the current status of the process using or more key metrics. The most basic baseline is calculation of cost to produce a certain product or provides a certain service. Improvement goals should address metrics for estimating improvements in terms of percentages and money saved. For this, the team must perform a cost-benefits analysis. Such analysis begins with assessing the cost of poor quality. If the process is producing scrap, the team has to qualify it. If the process is causing rework, the team has to quantify it. If the employees are spending time in non-value-added activities in the process, quantify it. After estimating the cost savings for the project, the team should estimate the cost to do the project. Then it can present the business case by calculating the ROI, or return on investment. The team should set realistic goals. It should also provide an action plan and time frame to achieve goals. Obtain approval for the project. The last step calls for approval of the project charter, the business case, the preliminary project plan, and the estimated financial and other resources by the executive team. If the executive team reviews and approved of the project, resources are allocated and the team continues through the defined phase. In some cases, the black belt and the champion may be asked to make modifications in the charter, plan, or resources estimate. In the worst case, the executive team may take a negative view of the projected gains of the project and decide not to approve the project. However, regardless of whether the executive team approves or rejects the project charter and plan, the project team should seek a meeting with the executive team to acquaint them with the findings thus far. Form a project plan. Prior to closure, a team has to convert the preliminary project plan into a detailed project plan. This plan structures the project into steps and schedule milestones, deliverables, and goals for the 5 phases. For each task, milestones are necessary to fix where the team should be in the project and when. At each milestone, the black belt must report to the champion on the progress of the team and any problems that might arise. The project plan must indicate the start and finish times and duration for each task. In case steps are overlapping, the team may create a Gantt chart to represent the sequencing and timing. For each task, a person is entrusted with primary responsibility, and a checklist of 6 Sigma tools to be used is created. The checklist is regularly reviewed and updated during the course of the project. The black belt and the champion should also specify and schedule the training needed by each member of the team. The black belt and the champion should also schedule the 5 phase gate reviews to provide a checkpoint and closure at the end of each phase. Define phase gate review. We have arrived at the conclusion of the defined phase. It is time now for the black belt to hold a phase gate review. The black belt presents a detailed report to the executive team on the status of the project. With reference to the report, the executive team may raise queries, make critical observations, discuss ways to overcome hurdles, allocate resources where needed, provide reinforcement to the project team, and ensure that the project is on the right course. Phase gate reviews are not technical. It is assumed that the black belt has worked out any technical problems. They are primarily to ensure that the project is proceeding according to the plan, and that the team meeting the deliverables on time and within budget. Tips to effectively drive Six Sigma improvements. 1. Identify project CTQ. 2. Define in clear terms the business case, the problem, and goal statement. 3. Define the problem from the customer's perspective. 4. Identify potential ways to capture customer experience. 5. Map and link customer to the process SIPOC. 6. Use RACI model to identify stakeholders and their role. Module test. A RACI chart shows the following: A. Reaction, action, control and improvement. B. A breakthrough strategy developed by Hector Rassi. C. Responsibility, accountability, consultation, and inform. D. Both A and B. E. Both C and D. F. None of the above. A CTQ is: A. Usually derived through VOC analysis. B. Any characteristic of a project or service or process that a customer consider critical to the quality. C. Both A and B. D. None of the above. To prioritize CTQ and link customers' CTQs to process inputs, a team can use the following: A. Cost and effect matrix. B. CTQ matrix. C. Both A and B. D. None of the above. Assignment 1. The area manager of Capital Logistics states the following: Today, Capital Logistics order execution and delivery process does not meet our customers' requirements. Drivers regularly miss their 2-hour store delivery window. If we don't address this situation, we'll jeopardize our relationships with our customers and possibly lose our logistic contract at the next renewal. Therefore, it is critical to meet our customers' CTQ. In addition, we estimate that delivering on time could save our customer $100,000 in lost productivity. Also, would cut our need for extra tractors, drivers, and all those outside careers we now use for only those costly special deliveries, which are running as high as 12 to 18 times a month. As an assignment, develop the business case, problem, and goal statement. Assignment 2. The process is described as follows. Capital Logistics receives a store order from the customer or store manager and processes the order. The Capital Logistics dispatcher, who manages the routine schedule, schedules the delivery. At the appropriate time, the driver is dispatched with the delivery. The driver delivers the goods to the store. The customer receives and signs at the customer dock. Develop a high-level process map or SIPOC for this project. For the Capital Logistics case, fill the blanks in the SIPOC diagram. The business care. In order to ensure that the Capital Logistics delivery contract is renewed next year, we must address the problem of poor delivery performance. We estimate that delivering on time could save our customers $100,000 in lost productivity. Also, would cut our need for extra tractors, drivers, and outside carriers, now used for special deliveries. Special deliveries are much more expensive than regular deliveries. The problem statement. The logistics center manager has received several complaints from store managers about deliveries arriving either too early or too late from their scheduled delivery times. Early and late deliveries occur at all customer locations within the state. Failure to deliver to schedule negatively impacts customer satisfaction and increases cost to both the business and the goal statement. Reduce the number of deliveries that are either too early or too late by 50% in order to better meet our customer expectations for timely delivery. This project should be implemented by 31st October before the holiday volume increases the deliveries. The answer to CAP's logistics assignment, the CTQ, is on-time delivery. The customer is the store manager. The output is received freight. The process involves 5 steps. 1. Receive store order. 2. Schedule delivery. 3. Dispatch delivery. 4. Deliver goods to store. 5. Receive delivery. The input is the store order. The supplier is also the store manager. This is the end of our second module. Next module we are going is Module 3, Six Sigma Measure Phase.